Well, I am delighted to be back in Ollie, although this is my first summer course. The origins of this course were a lecture that I gave at Modernism Week a couple of months ago, which turned out to be widely popular for professional, and it was precisely on this topic. And so I called Susan and said, how about a course for Ollie that would just develop this theme and would make this heritage much more visible since it's so close to home. I'm not particularly obsessed by mid-century modern per se. I mean, I like all architecture styles, but there was a moment in the mid-century period where architecture acted without fear of the environment, without fear of sites. There was a lot of experimentation, and curiously, the Monterey Bay had a significant amount of those forward thinkers, building there. Much of the attention in the last few decades, 20 years actually, it's been really Palm Springs has taken a lot of that limelight. But in fact, the same pattern of migration that Los Angeles had to Palm Springs was from the Bay Area to the Monterey Bay, and it still is. Clearly, the topography and the nature that is there, it's absolutely extraordinary. And it's that relationship that is consistently narrated through a number of heroic figures and lesser known architects. I subdivided this subject matter community in 4 parts because we have 4 classes, but we would definitely start with Frank Lloyd Wright, who is the architect that I would say every state in the United States can claim as its own, and we do have a number of buildings in California by Frank Lloyd Wright, but there's one in particular that became certainly a landmark for the area, but in California in general, called the Walker House. It's a history of patronage, really, between Della Walker and Wright, how it came to get this commission. Other projects were lined up that were never realized, and there were, every time there is Wright, there are followers. So the followers of Wright continued building in the area in using the sort of organic vein. The second class really narrates the contributions that Southern California architects and Northern California architects gave to the Monterey Bay. We don't really have a unifying framework for the history of California modernism. We have big monographs on specific characters: Richard Neutra, Charles Eames, Rudolf Schindler, Worcester, many others, but we don't have an understanding of the conditions that made California the perfect place for all these different ventures to come out. And I will make an effort to point out some of those in how essentially some of these architects from Southern California, I'm thinking about Gordon Drake, I'm thinking about Howard Hamilton Harris, and Richard Neutra came from Southern California, came to Monterey and built in Monterey, as well as from Northern California, Henry Hill, Anshin Allen, and a number of others. Mark Mills, who was very much an important figure coming from Wright, but established his own lineage. The third class is the contribution of William Worcester and what he did in the Monterey Bay. There are a number of buildings that he did there, and Worcester was truly a power broker. He was a very prolific architect who had his most creative period as an architect in the 30s, although he kept designing, but he had a bigger office, so he clearly delegated to others most of his work. In the 30s of Worcester are quite extraordinary here, and with some buildings done in the 50s as well. You have to realize that in the Monterey Bay, there was a thriving intelligentsia and artistic community. The photography was huge with the Westons. Henry Miller lived in Big Sur, and you know, the whole Esalen phenomenon is part of an embracing of nature in ways that are quite mystical. And there's also the contribution that Pauline Schindler, the wife of Rudolf Schindler, did in the 20s and 30s, where she directed a local journal called The Carmelite, where she had Orson Welles and Horowitz and so many other folks, Josephine Becker, performing in the Monterey. But no one would think about that. Lastly, the contribution of architects from out of state to the Monterey Bay, a huge name that contributed significantly to the Monterey Bay's Edward Durrell Stone, the architect that designed the Museum of Modern Art in New York and so many landmarks. He did a number of projects in here. Walter Netsch, who became the head designer in Skidmore, Owens and Merrill, Chicago, did a phenomenal building, the postgraduate naval school. They're large buildings that were covered worldwide. So we look at that legacy and see how we can account for that, preserve it, enjoy, and possibly make a book out of it. We'll see. That's something in the works. Thank you so much. I hope to see you there.